Welcome to Boomer Technician. We're in the shop today, but I'm hoping to get on the road by the weekend. We had a minor leak in the Soul Survivor's radiator, and I let it go to see how long it took to become a major leak, and the answer was one round trip to California, 2,000 miles. And unfortunately, it's big enough now I can't simply ignore it, so we're going to have to address that. Unfortunately, I ordered a radiator on Saturday, and they promised it tomorrow. So we'll see if it makes it. In the meanwhile, we're going to pull the old one out and do a little prep for the new radiator installation. No, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about the radiator replacement. The fan is on a threaded hub on the water pump. There's a nut here holding this AC hose on the radiator shroud. The radiator shroud's held in with 4 bolts, and the radiator is held in with 4 bolts. So this is about as tough to change as, a battery or an alternator. But I did want to zoom in, get this hose out of the way, and take a look at this Gates hose clamp. It's a thermoplastic clamp, and it's got a very even stress all the way around. There's no opportunity for the hose to buckle up and create a leak path. And in addition, there's no pieces on it that can catch your hand when you're working around it. And it fits in a very tight spot and makes a nice clean look. So I'm a fan. Unfortunately, they're single use, and they're, in terms of prices, they're pretty similar to a regular worm gear clamp. So you don't have a price advantage, but you've got a better performance advantage. And I really like them. I've been using them on all my cars for the last 10 or 15 years. To remove them, you can slit them with a razor blade if you've got a really nice touch, or you can cut it with a soldering iron, which is what we're going to do. And it takes a couple of minutes, but I don't worry about nicking the hose when I do it this way. All right, let's see if we can get the rest of it with a carpet knife here. There we go. And now this hose is ready to come off. Well, the good news is the radiator has arrived. It's about lunchtime on Thursday, so I should have no problem getting this mounted up by the end of the day. I checked the mounting points and they all match up. Always a concern with an aftermarket radiator. So I just need to do a couple of modifications to it, and then it'll be ready to go in. I'm going to paint the sides and the top black so it looks a little more original in the engine bay. There's a lot of debate online about whether or not you should paint an aluminum radiator black. The proponents for keeping it silver say that silver reflects better. The proponents for painting it black say black radiates better. So to my mind, if it radiates better, that should work well on a radiator. I am using a paint that's specific for radiators, got it from Eastwood, so that should be good to go. Once it's painted, I've got a couple of more changes to make before we drop it in. The outlet tubes are 1/4 inch too big, but I've got a fix for that. And then I want to plug the automatic transmission cooler so that should the cooler start to fail, the plugs will keep it from leaking out on the ground. It'd be a pain to have to park the car on the road because the automatic transmission cooler is leaking and I failed to block it up. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up the paint shaker, and once it's done shaking, I'm going to shoot it, and then we'll pick it up from there. Okay, as I said before I painted this, I wanted to block off these 2 ports. These go to the transmission cooler, and really they're not going to leak unless there's a failure in the transmission cooler. But if there is, we will get coolant out of these holes. So the simple thing is just to put a couple plugs in, and we're good to go, regardless of the condition of the cooler. And since I've got a manual transmission, this car will work just fine with the transmission cooler ports blocked off. I also mentioned that the outlets were 1.5 inches and the hoses on the car are 1.25 inches. So we've got a little adapter set up here for the lower radiator hose. I'm going to swing around here in a second and we'll show you how we did that on the upper radiator hose. Okay, so we've got an 1.5 inch outlet here, and we need to go to 1.25 inches. So I've got this hose barb. It's 1.5 inches on one side and 1.25 inches on the other, and then we just take a little length of 1.5 inch hose and push it all together. Well, I forgot to show how to install the Gates clamp, but that would be the next step in the process. Well, we skipped over a couple of steps, but we've got the radiator installed. As you heard earlier, I'm under a time crunch here, getting ready for a trip down to the Albuquerque, New Mexico car show. So I had to make sure that I got everything in place and basically had to stop spending time setting up the camera. But we can show you the completed project here. You may be able to tell this aftermarket radiator is a bit thicker than the radiator that was originally in the car. And because of that, I had to switch over to a different fan and fan clutch combination. I had a Ranger fan and fan clutch in there, which is designed for the motor. And I switched over to a Merkur Scorpio fan and fan clutch, which is also designed for the engine, but it's about an inch shorter. So it gave me the clearance to put the radiator in. Anyway, next time you see me, I should be somewhere between here and New Mexico, if not down at the Albuquerque car show. Well, we just took the Soul Survivor over the Raton Pass, stress tested the radiator, and dropped down into New Mexico, land of unending wind. It's called the Land of Enchantment, and when you're driving from Denver to Albuquerque, when you first get into the state, this is the view that greets you. But don't worry, it'll get better in about 2 hours of driving. Well, things have suddenly taken a rather bad turn. That's bundled up there is a deer, unfortunately. And he decided to, well, she decided to take on the Soul Survivor. I guess we came out the better of the two, but she did no favors to the front of my car. Well, as promised, here's some prettier scenery here in New Mexico. Just got back on the road after the deer hit, and it appears no permanent damage has been done to the mechanicals on the car, but there is definitely cosmetic damage. Well, it's Saturday morning before the show, and I'm taking an inventory of the damage. The hood fits terrible. That headlight's cocked over to the left. Going down the highway, it lights the other lane instead of the road in front of us. The grill's smashed in pretty severely, and unfortunately this fascia is a 1-year part, and it's cracked at the center there and cracked over the headlight. But other than that, there's no structural damage. It's just all cosmetic. And the Soul Survivor is more road warrior than show pony. So we'll take it to the show as it is and head back to Denver and reevaluate things on Monday. So here's the Soul Survivor at the organizer's tent on the day of the show. It was a great little show. It was put on by the Rio Grande Mustang Club, and they had a wide variety of cars. They had a lot of older cars, which, you know, it's no real secret that the collector car world is starting to see their senior members age out. It's getting more difficult to get out, and they tend to be the folks owning the older cars. So the cars are sort of disappearing. But we also saw a lot of participation from folks with much newer cars. And of course, many Mustang enthusiasts own several cars, so sometimes it's a debate about which car to bring out. But really, a well-run show. I was quite impressed with it. And I had the opportunity to talk to the organizer of the show itself, a guy named Eric Shirley, with the Rio Grande Mustang Club.
This is Mustang Enchantment, put on by Rio Grande Mustang Club. I'm Eric Shirley. I'm the show director. I've been show director for probably 13 years now. This year's show is a new experience and a new location, so we're working with it. My wife and I didn't really have a Mustang until our kids were gone, and she decided she wanted a convertible. I always bought Ford vehicles, though I never had a Mustang, and Mustang was the best convertible to get, really. It had the biggest trunk and other things, and the lowest price too. So about 4 or 5 years ago, we got more involved with the national club, Mustang Club of America, and we've now been to all the national shows for the last 4 years, I think. This show It's a regional show. We try to do a good job with it, and people keep coming back, so we must do all right. We still have one of the original members in our club. He's now, this year he'll be 90 in November.
What car does he have?
He doesn't have one now. He's got a Maverick pickup.
Well, it was great talking with Eric, and I really want to express my appreciation. I'm not a detail-oriented guy. I'm not a guy who's going to be running a show like this, and it's great that the world has the Eric Shirleys out there who can, for year after year, build the email lists and get the people to participate and find the locations and put the show together. And, you know, if we didn't have guys like Eric, I wouldn't be able to walk the line and get photographs or images of all these great Mustangs. And if you take a look up there as we're making our way up the line, there's a very nice first-gen Cougar, which is a car I've always liked. That's a fantastic looking ride. And overall, the weather was perfect. The folks were very welcoming, and lots of cars for a relatively small town. There aren't a lot of big towns in New Mexico, and Albuquerque, I think, is the biggest, but it's not what you'd call a major metropolis. And oh, look at that beautiful bullet car. Fantastic.
Here in Albuquerque, there's not a lot of automotive ties to the manufacturing industry, but there is a very strong race presence here because it's the home to the Unser family. They used to have a museum here. Evidently, it's been relocated. The building still stands, but it's not open today. But their racing record, is particularly in Indy, is incredible. Family members have participated in 73 races with 9 wins total. And really, they got their start up in Colorado, my home stomping grounds, at the Pikes Peak race, where they had 81 different races and 26 separate class wins, which is just an incredible showing. And there's been 6 different Unsers racing at Indy. So a deep legacy here in Albuquerque for the Unser family. Well, yesterday we hit a deer, and today my camera took a tumble on the tripod, so we're switched over to the handheld cell phone. Just here to wrap things up, it's kind of interesting. I've become the guy who hit a deer at the car show. Everybody comes up and comments on that, which is okay, I guess. I wanted to kind of be the guy with a 74 Mustang, but we'll take what we can get. Spent some time at the meet and greet Friday night, and I got a lot of positive feedback on my driving to 50 car shows in 50 states. So I think we're on to something here. It's a lot of fun, at least amongst the Mustang folk. It's been a good show due to my notoriety. I got roped into doing some judging, so that was fun. And we're kind of wrapping things up here. It's a typical day in Albuquerque. The wind's picking up because it's the afternoon. So with that, I think we'll wrap up the show.
Well, we're back in the shop, wrapping up the Albuquerque trip. 2 car shows so far, 2 different states. We've lost a fuel tank strap. We've had to replace a radiator, and oh yeah, we hit a deer and busted up the front of the car. But the sole survivor is a survivor. So we'll get the pieces together, get it back on the road. I've got a car show in 2 weeks, and I plan on being there. Why? Because no matter where you go, there you are. I've got a radiator on order, and it's supposed to be here tomorrow. If not, we're going to have to scrub the trip to Albuquerque. But you won't know about that because I'll have to dump the video. Well, I'm on my way to Albuquerque for the New Mexico show, and I've already encountered a crisis. I forgot to put any soda in my ice chest.